Current is very good. We're recording.
I'll share my screen now.
Sure.
Everybody see my screen?
Yes, sir, we can.
All right. Please don't forget to ask questions. All right.
Very good.
So, so this is a class to teach about subnetting. I'm not here to teach anything about the history of subnetting or the whole concept of binary. No, I'm here to teach you how to subnet the most effective way, at least how I think of it. There are many multiple ways to subnet, but this is the way I know that is most effective for me. All right. And this is the method that I used when I took my CCNA. So the first thing, this number right here is the holy grail when it comes to my technique, okay? So 1 bit, so it says here, single digit equals bits borrowed. So before we talk about what a bits is, there are, when it comes to subnetting, there are four octets, okay? So you can argue that this is first octet, this is the second octet, this is the third octet, this is the fourth octet.
Are you highlighting something?
No, I'm not.
Okay, very good.
So this is the first octet, and each octet has 8 binary bits. Okay. So when it comes to, let's say, a class C network, which starts from a /24, right? You have 255.255.255.0. And I'm sure that most of people are aware of this because this is a very common, right? Common subnet that is used widely. And now, as you can see, this is 255.255.255 because the entire 8 bits is borrowed. Does that make sense? That's why it's 255, 255, 255. And here it's 0. What that means is that we have 8 binary bits that are available to be borrowed. Okay. And this basically represents that. These are the 8 bits that you can borrow per octet. So what this means is if I were to borrow 1 binary bit from a C class, which is a /24, this right here will turn to /25. And my subnet mask is going to be what? Right here, 255.255.255.128. Does that make sense? If I borrow 2 bits, this is going to turn into a /26. And this is going to turn into 255.255.255. There we go. 192. I think you guys get the point now, right?
Yes.
And as the more I borrow up to 8 bits, and that's the subnet I'm going to be. So as you know, as I've mentioned before, 8 bits is the total of binary bits you can borrow per octet. So this right here is 255. So guess what? You see the 8 bits borrowed here is 255. So I hope you get the example when just from my mention here. And if you do have questions, please ask. So now I want to get straight into now that you've learned how to analyze each bit equivalence of a subnet, meaning like now you're able to identify, oh, what is a /26? What is a /27? What is a /28? I've just given you an example of that. But now let's try to solve it. All right. So I have an example here. So this is the example that I'm going to use. All right.
Hold on, bro. We have a question.
All right, let's go. What's the question here?
You mean the first 3 octet of 255 represent 24 ones? That's correct.
Yes. That is correct. That is correct. Yes, that is correct. And reason being is that each octet, when it's obviously using the all full 8 binary bits, that is why it's 255.255.255. Okay. All right, cool. So I will move on. Awesome. So that is the one of the fundamentals that you should know before you can subnet. Okay. And now I want to actually do a subnetting question. Okay. So let's get to it. I will
Let's make it more spicy, bro. Let's see if Obed can actually share a question, so we can do this in real time, so they can see how fast you can do it with your technique.
Sure. Obaid, do you have?
Like, Obed, can you share with us one subnet, regardless of the subnet mask? Can you share one subnet so Chris can find out its network ID, its broadcast, its first host, its last host,
If
like
you
anyone?
if you cannot give me one, I can provide one and give you an example.
I
Okay,
want to share. How about /26? All right.
perfect.
So
Beautiful.
he
So
said /26. I'm going to give you a random number out of my mind.
we can do
It's
this. We can do this.
all right. Good.
All right. So we have an IP address of, we have a private IP address of 10.0.70.30, all right, /26. Now I want you to know the concept of class A, B, and C. I don't need you to know the concept, but at the same time, I need you to know this right here. Right here. This is the representation of class A, B, and C. So whatever subnet that starts from, let's say, a /8 through 15 will be a class A represent, which is this. And a representation of a class B will start from /16 to 23. And the representation of class C, which is the most popular subnetting class, I would argue in the world, is /24, which is what everybody's familiar with, okay? Which is 255, 255, 255, meaning 3 octet is occupied and the fourth one isn't. So now, knowing that, you've mentioned to me that you want to learn about to subnet a /26, right? Subnet. So that will be under class C, okay? So now that we know that the class C starts from /24, then we know that this representation here, a /26, that is a class C network, okay? So we've borrowed, so this here, it means we've borrowed 2 bits from the fourth octet, okay? So let us go back to my formula that I have up there, okay? I'm actually going to bring this down just so that you have a better idea, okay? So now here. So let us first find the subnet for this, right? This is going to be 255, 255, 255 dot, well, guess what? This is a 2 bits we borrowed, right? And guess what? 2 bits we borrowed, that's 192. Bam. Just like there, you have a subnet mask. Now, let's solve the question, right? What is the network ID? What is the broadcast ID? What is the first usable IP address? Or actually, what subnet does this IP address fall in range in? Okay, that's the important question here, right? So let's do this. So the general rule is this. Now that you know that borrowing 2 bits would equal 192, this is what I want you to do. There is a total IP address of 256, right? This includes network ID plus broadcast ID, okay? And I want you to minus 192 to get the interval for our network ID in order to process the subnetting, all right? So 256 minus 192 will give me what? 64, right? This is very important because this is the interval that we'll be using. Basically, this is the holy grail number that we can use to subnet, all right? To be able to figure which subnet this IP address is in range of, all right? But just
And
to read, yes, sir,
before
go
you
ahead.
move on, sir, probably, I'm not sure if the audience is aware of this, but why 256? It's because That's the number you get when you sum together all the values within an octet, like
Yes, sir.
1, 2, 4, 16, 32, 64, and 128. All those numbers together are 256.
Yes,
That's the
sir.
highest value you could have per octet.
Yep. Yes, and the reason why we use 254 as the maximum value when it comes to IP addressing is because we have to not include the network ID and the broadcast ID.
Correct.
Yes, sir. So now going back, right? We're trying to figure this out, right? What is a slash 26 and which where does the IP address range of 30 reside in, right? So I told you the technique is 256 minus the subnet mask here that you found, which you found through here, right? And this is going to give you 64, which is the interval. Now let's do the calculation, okay? The first thing is always going to be, I'm sorry, network ID, and follow that up with first IP address, followed up with last IP address, and followed up with broadcast ID. All right. So this 64 right here, the interval is our network ID. All right. So in this case, you will start from 0 and then you'll go to 64. And you wouldn't go anymore. Why? Because this IP address will most likely be within this range here. So I'll tell you how the calculation works, okay? So, and if I were to add another 64 here, I get 128, okay? So the calculation is this. In order to get the broadcast ID, you will minus 1, which is 127. In order to get the last IP address of the subnet, you will minus 1 again from the broadcast ID, which is 126.
Yeah, but you're choosing the wrong range, bro.
Oh, well, yes, right. But
Remember,
I
it's
just want to, right. No, it's here. But I just want to show an example
okay. Very good.
before I go, bro. So in the first IP address, so this is the general rule, right? But as you can see here, the IP address range of what we're looking for, which is 30, is not here. So this subnet is incorrect. So now let's try this one. 64 minus 1 to get the broadcast ID, 63. 63 minus 1, 62 to get the last IP address, right? And network ID, which starts from 0, you add 1, which is 1. And this is the range.
We have a question. We have a question,
Yes.
guys. Why we have network ID 0, 64, 128?
Okay. So 128, I just put it there to give you an example of the calculation that you will need to use to find the broadcast ID, last IP address, and first IP address. But in a case like this, you wouldn't need 128 here. It would just be this. Does that make sense?
So since the subtraction that you did gave you
Yes, sir.
64, that means that you're going to have intervals of 64 IPs. But remember that the 0 is included. So the first interval is going to be from 0 all the way to 63. The second interval is going to be from 64 all the way to 127. And the third interval starts at 128. So
Exactly.
if you're trying to see which one is the right interval for you, you just need to see like the number you're dealing with and
Exactly.
choose the best interval according to the ranges that you have available.
So in this case, it's 30. So the 30 here is within this IP range here.
Yeah, the 30 perfectly fits within 0 to 63. And you might think, okay, why not the second interval? Why not like 64 all the way to 127? Well, that's too much. 30 definitely fits in the previous range. That's why this is the right range.
Exactly. And when you get a subnetting questions from an exam like CCNA, they're going to give you exactly same questions, just like this, very similar. And they might ask you, what is the I don't know, what is the network ID, right? Of this, that applies to this range of IP address for this subnet. And those are the type of questions that you're going to get. And in this case, the network ID might be 0, or and it might ask you what is the broadcast ID of for this range. Well, guess what? It's 63. And
One
sometimes
second, bro, before you move on. So to make sure I understood, we chose 0 to 64 because 30 is in the range. That is correct.
that is correct. Yes, sir.
Mhm.
So you would go more interval. You will go more interval basically to your needs. So you will not go any more than the IP range that you will need here, essentially. Does that make sense?
It makes sense to me. And yes, Obada said that that makes sense. And Giovanni just
That is
joined us.
beautiful.
Welcome, Giovanni. And let's double check if actually the message was delivered. So could you please share with us, let's give you the opportunity, Giovanni. Could you please share with us one subnet that you would like us to work with right now?
Giovanni joined us.
Yeah.
Hey,
Hey, Giovanni.
how
How you
are
doing?
you, Chris?
How are you? First time hearing your voice.
Hey, yes, sir. Hey,
Good
Obai, how are you?
Uh, he's
He's, uh,
fine. He cannot talk right now.
sleep.
Okay,
Yeah, it's very late there.
But
okay.
But
could you, Giovanni, please share with us a subnet, regardless of the subnet mask? Could you share with us just an example so we can work with that right now?
Yeah, sure.
just any normal, typical.
Yeah. 172.
172, okay.
The 21.
That 21. Are you taking notes, Chris?
Okay.
The 320. I would say.
100,
Well,
172, 21, 00.
yeah.
All right. And what's the subnet mask?
Let's say that we want to have like the subnets of
No.
64.
We're going to find the network ID and the
Okay,
broadcast. Just give us the subnet
okay.
mask.
27.
27. That's quite similar to the previous example. Can we
Yeah,
can we
yeah.
change that?
21.
21. Very good. Go ahead, Chris, with 21.
21. All right. So this is okay. So I'm going to show Sashan or by this, right? So the technique that we use is this, right? So 21, so that's a B class B, right? So obviously starting from 16, so that's a 5 bits borrowed, right? So the 5 bits borrowed immediately dot 248.0. Okay, just like that. And the technique that we want to use is 5 bits per, oh, but okay. Make sure you're following. Okay, cool. All right. So as I've mentioned before, we want to minus 256 from 248, which will give us the interval for the network ID. So in this case, if my math is correct, that's 8. So let's do the calculation now. All right, so it's going to be network ID, first IP, last IP, broadcast ID. All right, so now that we found that the interval is 8, we'll start from 0, 8 until we get to 21. Well, yes, actually, no.
No.
No, I'm sorry, 0, yes. So,
0 falls within 0 to
exactly.
8.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So just like this, obviously the golden rule is, sorry, it's like this: 1, 7, 6, All right. So does this make sense?
It does.
Beautiful. So when it comes to the request that he's made here, this would absolutely fall under that, I suppose. So this is a class B, which reference to its 0 IP. So
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean,
I would have preferred that if he gave me actual like
yeah, I thought the same. I thought the same.
yeah,
But just for the sake of this example, and to make sure that everybody's understanding, that was actually the network of this example. I mean,
right.
172.21.0.0 is actually the network ID of that subnet.
Right here, exactly. So in a case like this will be considered a tricky question in a CCNA. Like so that's what you would have to know. You would have to know if they will give you an IP range. That's simple, right? It will fill it will be within the first IP. Let's say that's 5, right? Then that's fine. It will be the usable IP address from the within the first and the last. So that this will work fine. And then from there, they might ask you, oh, from this range, what will be the broadcast ID? They might say, then your answer is 7. So, so as long as you have this method, you'll be able to figure out, regardless of, I guess, what questions they try to throw at you for the most part.
Let's try to see another example, because that one was good, but probably
it might,
yeah.
So let's go with this one again, but I will change the subnet here. So
I'm going to say the subnet to make sure that like we didn't plan this beforehand.
No.
11.
11. He said 11. That's the number. Let's go with it.
11. Wow, that's class A.
Let's see if you have the tricks.
All right, so we will use this methodology once again, okay? So class A, that class A starts from a /8, right? So from a binary bit perspective, from the first octet, it will be 11 minus 8, which will give you 3, if my math is correct. So that's 3 bits borrowed, right? From the first octet. So what that means is we simply look at this, right? So it's 255.224.0.0. All right.
Cool.
3 bits. So 3 bits borrowed. So my technique is always this, as I mentioned, 256 minus 224. What is that?
31.
32, bro.
32, yeah, 32.
There we go. We found the interval. All right.
Good.
So now we do the same thing. Network ID, first IP, last IP, broadcast ID. All right. And from here, it's just magic. 0, 32. Well, depending on the IP address. So we are looking for what exactly here? 70, right?
No,
I'm sorry.
We're looking for 0 again.
Wait, where are we looking? Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. That's my fault, actually. I was because I was looking at this one because I was thinking it was class B or something, not class C. So yes, it is 0 again. Actually, this is not ideal because I want to use a different example.
Can we just change the second octet?
Yes, there we go. Let's do 30. How about that? Okay.
30.
That's perfect.
That's for girl.
What?
That's 28. Yeah, I like it.
28, bro.
That's my day, huh? That's my day.
So this is actually so if you get a question like this is basically how you do it. You can use this formula. You already know that the class A starts from /8, class B starts from /16, class C starts from /24. So in a case like this, you borrow 3 bits from the first octet, but regardless of which octet you're using, this formula stays the same, right? So when you borrow 3 bits from an octet, it's going to be 224. So in this case, 255.224.00 because it's a class A, and you still borrow 3. So when you minus from a 256, which is the full IP address range, including the broadcast and the network ID. You minus it from the 224, you get a 32, which you will use as an interval. Yes, go ahead.
Yes,
Go ahead.
we can read.
Hmm.
Is the single digit?
Are you talking about this one? This is always stands. It will never change. And like I said, this is the rule. This is a technique that I use. Not everybody uses this specific rule. I use it this way because I think it's great. I think it's most effective. But like I said, when it comes to subnetting, everybody has their preference and you have to respect that. But to me, this always worked wonders for me.
Yeah, he prefers to memorize the actual values, but I'm used to do the calculations in my mind. It depends on the way you feel comfortable with. At the end of the day, you just need to make sure that those are the values you're working with.
Exactly.
No less, no more. Those
Yep.
values.
So going back to this question here, this one is pretty simple. We are looking for an IP range of what, 28, right? So we need to find the subnet that is in range of 28. Well, guess what? We found the interval. When you found the interval just like this, you already got your answer because it's going to fall within the first range here, right? So the general rule is obviously you add one, you minus one from the network ID to get the broadcast. So it's going to be 31. And your last IP address is going to be 30. And guess what? We are looking for an IP address of 28. It falls within 1 to 30, around right here. So this is it. So in a case, if they give you a subnetting question of this and they're asking you for a network ID, well, guess what? Network ID is 0. The first IP address range of this value is 1. The last will be 30, and the broadcast ID will be 31.
What about 97, brother? Let's change the 28 for a 97.
Very good. I like that. So in that case, we keep adding 32 until we get to that range, okay? So it's going to be 32 is 64, right? And then 96. Oh, guess what? We have to go one more. Well, actually, yes, we have to go one more. And it's going to be, somebody do the math for me, 128, right?
Correct.
128. Okay, cool. So we have to get here. Obai, do you know why I got to 128? Okay, beautiful.
All right.
So now we're going to do the same method as how we did, okay? 128 minus 1 to get the broadcast ID, 127. Minus 1 to get the last IP, 126. Plus 1 to get the first IP, 97. Guess what? Ooh, right here. The first IP ranges of this is actually 97. So this will work fine. So if they were to ask you, what is the network ID of this subnet, right? So,
Could you write it down, bro? Like the whole network ID?
sure. So network ID for this specific question right here
Correct.
would be 10 dot
96.
6.70.30/11. Okay. Well, actually, let's do this. Let's do that instead. Just for visibility, right? And then first IP is going to be 10.97.70.30.255.224.0. Last IP is going to be 10.126.70.30.55.224.0.0.
Yeah,
And
but I think that the network ID is wrong.
wait, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, my bad. Wait, what?
No. I mean, the third and fourth octets should be 0.
Because it's network ID, right? Okay. Wait, can you just explain that? Explain it.
Let me double check.
Yeah, it should be zero.
Yeah, yeah. It
For the,
should be
okay, for the
zero.
network ID and broker, yeah, okay,
Hmm.
gotcha. Yes, sir. And then this is going to be dot, no, sorry, dot 127 dot 0 dot 0.
No, 255, 255.
The broadcast ID.
Yes.
To be honest, I've always worked on like mostly focused on just the IP addresses. So I thought, so I sort of
Okay,
did,
very
yeah,
good.
did forget about it, to be honest with you. All right, cool.
That's correct. Yep, we have everything is looking good. But the first IP is 96.0.1 because remember you're adding one and
Right, I did.
the network ID, yeah, but for the third and fourth octet, remember that the network ID started at 00. If we add one, it's going to be 01. Does that make sense?
Hey, repeat that one more time, because this is a class B, right? A class A, right?
Yeah, so
Got it. Yeah.
let's verify one more time. So your network ID is 10.96.0.0.
Right.
Right. If you add one more, which is the first usable IP,
Right.
that's gonna be 96.0.1. So you have right there 10.97.70.30. That's not right.
Okay. So class A and B, I know that there's a specific rule, as in like we have to add. Just trying to forget here. Hmm. All right. So 10.97 dot. To explain
So the first host is gonna be 10.96.0.1.
the first IP address.
The first usable IP, yes,
Mm-hmm.
96.
Sure.
That's 0.1.
That one.
1, yeah. And that's going to go all the way to 10.127.255.255, which is what you have in the broadcast.
10.127.
And the last usable IP is going to be 10.127.255.254 because we're subtracting just one from the broadcast.
Mm. Wait. Let's make sure we're not confused here. First IP. Okay. 6.0.1. Okay, that's fine. That's A. And what you say about the last IP address, bro?
Then 255.254.
255. Wait, 10.2.127.
So the last host is going to be 10.127.255.254. That
So,
254, that's correct because you need to subtract one from the broadcast.
right.
Yep, that's the information now, the right information.
Mm, okay. Yeah, I think I got confused. It was can you explain that actually methodology when it comes to subnetting class A and B specifically, also to abide as well?
I'm
Yeah.
going to share my screen then.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I think that's kind of valuable information. And to be honest with you, I'll be honest, that's like I usually just deal with like most of the time class C network. So like class A and B, you tend to forget that specific structure of method. So it's very common mistake. So I think
Don't
it's really
worry,
good that
bro.
we go through it here.
All right, so we have, what was the IP? The 10.97,
Yes.
that's 70, that 30/11, right?
Let me see.
So as you mentioned correctly, it's gonna be 0, 32,
Yep.
then 96, right?
Yeah, 6496.
Yeah, I forgot it. 64, 96,
Yeah.
128.
Mm-hmm. There we go.
All right. So this is what I told you before. At least this is my method. Everybody has its own methodology. If I am working with an octet, let's imagine for a second that I'm working with this octet, I'm sure that for the network ID, the second octet is going to be 0. I'm sure that always happens. The
All
same
right.
for this. If I'm working on this octet, then I'm sure that the remaining 2 octets are going to be 0 for the network ID. So
Correct.
this is going to be 0 and this is going to be 0. And same applies here. If I'm working in this octet, then this is going to be 0, 0, and 0.
Oh, actually, I know what you mean, bro. Yeah,
Yeah.
it just came to me. Yes, I know what you mean. Yeah, that was a
So
rookie mistake. Yeah.
yeah. No, no, no. It's not a rookie mistake. That
Yeah.
has happened to all of us.
Yeah, you tend to
So,
forget it because you don't
mhm,
generally work too much with class A and B, and you forget the methodology of because that's actually one of the differences. Well, the
mhm.
only differences between class C network and class A and B. You have to understand that, and it's easy to very forget that when you don't really work with it too much. So yeah, that's a great
So
tip. Now, yep.
very good. So based on your explanation,
Mhm.
the network would be 10 dot 96
Sure.
dot 0.0 because I'm working here. We all know that this is the right range
Yeah,
because
it makes
97
sense now.
falls in here, right?
Yeah, I remember now. Yes, sir.
But what's the second subnet? Well, remember
2552225. Yep, I
10
know now.
128, that's 0.0. That's the second big subnet.
Mhm.
So if I subtract 1 from this second big subnet,
Yep.
it's going to be 10 that 1, sorry, 27 that 255
Exactly. Because this is zero.
that
Exactly.
254
Yep.
54.
Minus and one.
Well, this is the last usable IP, but okay, hold on. 255, this is the broadcast.
Mhm.
If I add one more to this IP in here, then it becomes this.
Exactly.
So that's why this is the broadcast. If I subtract 1, it's going to be 254.
254. Yep.
The same number in here. And the first usable IP is going to be all this plus 1, which is 1. The rest remain the same. Does that make sense?
Yes. So, Obaid, does this make sense to you? Because I'll be honest with you, like, mm,
He's not sure about what? About that's the broadcast. Let me go ahead. Let me 1 second.
so I think he's just trying to understand, like, you know how, like, for class C, you don't necessarily have to worry about these. It's very straightforward. But for class
Mhm.
A and B, because we're working with the second octet, that's why it has this more. I wouldn't say rule. Okay, so that's a great question, Enrique. Here, I mean, why we've changed the last octet to 255.
Very good, very good,
Mm.
very good. I'm ready for that question. So, um, we want to find the network and the broadcast based on this subnet mask, right? We know that right now we're working on the second octet.
Yep.
That means we're not going to deal with the third and the fourth octet when it comes to the network ID. So it's gonna be, the first one is 96 and the second one is going to be 128. Do we agree
Yep,
in here?
because that's the range that we're working on right now.
That's the range we're working on. So
Beautiful.
let me write it down here. It's going to be 10.128.0.0. And this one comes from, oh, well, no. Let me write it down here. 10.96.0.0. So far, do you understand, Chris?
Yes, sir.
Very good, very good. Now, let's subtract just one from this network ID. If we subtract one, that's gonna be the broadcast of this subnet. Do we agree?
That is correct.
Let's do it. So,
And when you subtract one from a 255 from that for octet, then it becomes 254.
that's right. So it's gonna be 10.127.255.255.
Yes.
Why is this? Because the moment I add just one more bit, it's going to be this one. Does that make sense? Yes, he said yes. All right. So if I subtract from this just one bit, it's going to be 10.127.255.254. So 254 in here is going to be the last usable IP from this range, from the range that goes from 10.96.0.0 all the way to 10.127.255.255. So this is going to be the last IP and the first IP.
Exactly. So this is the rule that I actually forgot when it comes to A and B. So, but right here, Enrique explains it really well. You really just, I mean, understanding the concept of why it happens is good, but also understand that this is the general rule. You minus one from 128 to get 127 and the full for octet 255, and for the last usable, it would actually be the full IP address will be 10.127.255 and minus one from the broadcast, full broadcast, which would give you 254. So like this right here, people tend to forget oftentimes because it's like a, you know, more or less a double procedure
Oh, okay.
process.
That we have another question in the audience. Why is 10.96.0.1? Very good question. All right. So this plus one is this one. If I say I want to see the second usable IP, then I'm going to do this plus 2. It would be 10.96.0.2. And it's the same thing all the way, at least for that octet, all the way to 255. Okay, okay. Does that make sense, Chris?
More or less, but I feel like you should need to explain more for Obaid. Because wait, Obaid, were you able to did you understand that or no? Oh, cool.
I got it. All right. So, Obai, if you really understood, I have a question for you. Let's see. What's gonna be the fifth usable IP? The fifth. I want to see that number in the chat box. Let's say that in our organization, as a standard, the fifth IP is for the server. There you go. There you go. As simple as that.
Yes, sir.
Well done. That's the right number. That's the number I'm looking for.
Hey, Obaid's good.
Yeah.
Obaid's good. Obaid's good. Obaid's good. It seems like you have a good, you know, like
foundation, I would say.
Fundamental, yeah, exactly. And like, to be honest, this is as hard as a subnetting is going to get,
Yep.
because any, like, for example, class C, that's piece of cake. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But for class A or B, just remember this methodology. That's it. And you should be able to do anything.
And just to give you a little bit of motivation, this is like going to the gym. At first, it's hard, but if you keep doing it, it becomes easier. So when you are at the CCNP level, you deal a lot with supernets like this one, /11, /17, and it becomes easier for you to do the subnetting for class A and B, because you are constantly doing it. So at this stage, it's quite normal if this looks a little bit hard, but if you keep practicing and doing it, by the time you get the exam, you're going to ace it because the practice is going to make you proficient. Keep
Yep,
that
I
in
agree.
mind.
I agree. And also, questions from, like, there's many good online questions for subnetting, so you can definitely take advantage of that. And like, to be honest, like, if you know the technique, so this is the difference, right? If you know the techniques on how to solve these, even if you don't do subnetting for a long time, it'll take you less than 30 minutes to, to learn it again, because you have that technique. You get what I
That's
mean?
correct.
And that's
And
really the importance of technique here.
that's correct. And as Chris and I were discussing previously, just to give you a real world example, for the job that I have today, in the interview, one of the first questions that they shared with me was, okay, go ahead and give me the subnet mask for a /28. I had 3 seconds to answer that. And I had no paper, I had no pen. I had to say that out of my mind. And right away I said 248. Not because I'm smart, it's because I have seen this many times. So it's a matter of practice, right? So just keep studying and eventually you are going to get proficiency, agility, and all that.
Yes, and also, Obad, just please refer to the notepad that I shared with everybody. You'll
Correct.
you'll be able to see all the single digit, and if you remember that 1 bits borrowed equals 128, 2 bits borrowed equals 192, you'll be able to understand subnetting, and you can do it in your head, really, you know. And if you know that number, then guess what? You'll be able to find the interval
Correct.
for which will help you get the network ID, and you'll be able to find the first usable, last usable, and the broadcast IP address right away. And the only difference for A and B is that you just have to understand this technique right here, which Enrique just showed for class A and B, and you're good to go. You literally understand subnetting from A to Z. Seriously.
Correct.
So yeah,
So to wrap
yeah,
this up,
exactly. The
for the
single
single
digit.
digit,
Yes,
made it
sir.
easy for me to
Thank you.
be on. Yeah, I know, I feel you.
That's why I say it's holy grail. Remember this and you will not forget subnetting. I'll tell you that right now.
By the way, for the CCNA, do I really need to have a
Yes,
solid understanding of
yes,
subnetting?
yes, yes,
Do
yes.
not ever take that exam if you don't feel comfortable with subnetting,
So
because
I'll
subnetting is a huge part of the exam.
so I'll tell you about, if I didn't know subnetting, I wouldn't have passed CCNA, because the routing questions and basically what we've just mentioned here, what the questions that we've essentially did, right? To what is the broadcast IP, what is the broadcast ID, what is the first usable IP, and what subnet is within that IP range. That's all the questions that you're going to get. And honestly, those are the hardest questions, really, to be honest with you. Everything,
And
yeah,
yeah, yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
anything else is really just like the definitions or like the concept, which either you know it or you don't, right? But subnetting is something you have to solve, you know. So yes, I would definitely say, if you don't have strong fundamental of subnetting, then you will fail the exam. That's no doubt about that.
That's correct. And just to give you like another example of the importance of subnetting in the CCNA exam.
Th-
Um,
There is another question, well, not question, but a kind of question that they do that is asking you, they give you two different networks. When I say two different, when I say that
I
they are
was
different,
yeah, I was about to give some sort of a similar example right now.
go ahead, go ahead.
But please, if I forget something, just
Yeah,
chime
yeah.
in. So they are going to ask you questions like this one, like asking you specifically, give us the subnet mask, then broadcast network ID and all that.
Yeah.
But there are going to be more other scenario-based questions where the implicit knowledge of subnetting is going to be required. For instance, they might show you a routing table and you are supposed to say which one is going to be the route based on either the routing protocol or the subnet that they're giving you. And once they give you the IP, without looking at routing protocols, just looking at the subnets, you're going to realize which route is going to be the best one.
Yep.
So in other words, if I see, let us say a route that is /28, another is /30, another is /17, probably I would say that this is going to be the best route, but the IP that they are giving me falls into this subnet. I need to know that beforehand.
Exactly. So that's where people you need to know your thing, because you still have to, even if you do feel confident, you should still
Mhm.
verify it, because you never know until you actually verify it mathematically.
Correct,
Because
correct.
when I was doing CCNA, I had the same thing. You will get like a 5 different answers, but you want to verify each and one of them, because believe me, they know, they make it tricky, look easy on the eyes, thinking that okay, maybe this is the correct, but it's not. Never doubt yourself. Take the time, do the subnetting, do the subnetting calculation and get your answer. You also have to really know the metrics, administer the distance, and also, the AD for like EIGRP, BGP, and ISIS,
Yeah,
all of that stuff as well, because that's all part of the routing protocol questions that you're gonna get.
yeah. We might be getting too deep into this, but just for to make sure that we all understand, you know that usually the most specific route is the best one, but probably according to the subnetting calculations, the IP that I have doesn't fall into this subnet, doesn't fall into this subnet, and this one, which is the least specific, is actually the right one. But I'm going to know that as soon as I do my subnetting, either in my mind or on paper. But I need to master the subnetting to be able to answer those questions. So be aware of that. Was that the comment that you had, Giovanni?
Yeah, yeah.
Very good. So to wrap this up, do we have any other question? Giovanni, or I forgot how
Obide,
to pronounce Bide. Yeah, I forgot how to pronounce that.
Obide, Obide.
Obide, Obide. Is there any other question that you guys want to share with us?
I think when it comes to subnetting, we've covered a good portion, and also the technique. And
I
I'm
think the
glad
same.
I'm glad that Obide is able to utilize the importance of the single digit bits borrowed here, the information, because
We have a good question in the audience, bro, and I want you to answer that.
I do actually. We're not gonna go over this section, but I will share
Go ahead and share
the
your screen.
yeah, I will
Share
actually
it on the chat box and
yeah,
share your screen as well.
sure. All right, so let me share my screen right now. And
Oh, Giovanni just shared another website as well.
yes. So yes, so let me share my screen right now. Oh, there we go. So this is these are some of the questions that you can use. Um, but like just to challenge yourself. You might not get it right the first time, but like I said, if you know that technique, you'll be able to find these answers. And if you go here like this, it'll regenerate every time. Does that make sense? So yeah. So this is a really good website that actually this is my favorite website. This has up to a 30 questions in a row. So like, for example, when I was studying for my CCNA, I basically did this until I got 30 questions in a row correct. So it was a way to test myself, really.
Well done.
So yeah, so like, so that you're ready, because this one goes through, class A, class B, class C, and questions like this. This is basically the questions that we more or less did. You know what I mean? What valid host range is IP address of this? You know what I mean?
Correct.
So you just have to find a network ID that has a subnet that basically contains this within the IP range. It's very easy. Obviously, like this is all the questions that we did. So this is obviously one of the easier questions here, but so now that you know that technique, use these websites and just continue to practice, and it's gonna come naturally and easy.
Could you click on the website that Giovanni shared to wrap this up?
Sure. Oh, so okay. Oh, so it's like same thing.
Oh yeah, same thing.
But this one is gonna hack you.
Yeah. But for the sake of learning, you can use any of them.
Yes, sir. But this is a solid one. It's one of the most popular ones.
That's right. So, well, Chris, thank you very much for that wonderful explanation.
No, thank you, Enrique, for covering my ass on the
come
last
on, bro.
section, because I totally forgot about that one. To be honest with you, there.
No, it's okay. It's okay. We're here to help each other.
No,
And also thank you for joining us, and Giovanni as well.
And Giovanni, thank you so much. Appreciate it. I mean, I already know that Giovanni,
Giovanni is one of the most experienced network engineers I know.
He already he already knows everything. He just came to test us. I know him.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much, guys, and I wish you a very wonderful night. We're going to upload this video later.
Yes, and thank you so much, Obaid and Giovanni. Really appreciate you guys having you guys here. Thank you.
Have a good one, guys.